Everybody, this is Brian. Welcome to Chiller Night Live. We're from 8 p.m. Eastern Time until 9 o'clock. We'll talk about all things horror, science fiction, the paranormal. You picked a topic and we will make a show out of it. Alright, I've got my chat lined up pretty well tonight. Pretty well. I can see a lot more here. I like it, I like it. D says, "Good evening, everyone." Good evening, D. Thanks for joining us. Patty says, "Hello." Hello, Patty. Thanks for joining us. Tonight's topic, killer Bigfoot horror movies. All right. Hey, and that was Al's topic. So hopefully Al joins us here tonight. He's usually here. All right, Stephanie says, "Hey, y'all." Hey, Stephanie. Thanks for joining us. How was everybody's week? Everybody have a good week? Hope you did. Hope you did. Stephanie, we have your topic for next week. Horror movies based on books. All right, but tonight, killer Bigfoot horror movies. So, Kevin says, "Good evening, Brian." Good evening, Kevin. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Al. Stephanie says, "Yes." Yeah, hopefully he joins us. Al, hey, there's Al. All right. Hi, everyone. Let me kick it off with my favorite Snow Beast, 1977. There you go. Did you see the, See, we're all set. We are all set for tonight. Jason says, "Good evening, my fellow ghouls, and to our esteemed ghoulish leader and learned sage of all things sci-fi and horror." I like that. That's pretty fancy. Thanks for joining us, Jason. Betty says, "The movie The Man Who Killed Hitler, Then Bigfoot." Yep, I got that one in here. That's one on the list. I have a list here. Ken says, "How do I watch the movie?" Well, we're not actually watching these ones here, Ken, but thanks for joining us, by the way. We're just talking about, this is just a topic for tonight. We're talking about just old, anything that falls under the scope of Bigfoot movies, like Al pointed out which one was it? The Snow Beast from 1977. That was a made-for-TV movie, I believe. One of those back in the day when they always had these made-for-TV movies. John, Mr. Lucasfilm is here. Let's rock and roll. All right, John, thanks for joining us. But, Ken, we will be having movies later on this year. We'll have some more Chiller Night Theater episodes coming up beginning in June. On Saturday, June 20th, we'll begin a 20-week run for Chiller Night Theater. We'll have a different movie every week. And then every Saturday night on Stream TV, holy moly, where's my icons at? I gotta get this stuff on here. What's this? House of Terror, Stream TV. What else am I missing? Chiller Night Theater. There we go. Stream TV every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Oh, we're having an earthquake here. All right, let me move that a little bit over here so you can see it a little better. But then you can catch the old chillers of yesteryear, the days of yesteryear. Jason says, "Bigfoot, The Lost Coast Tapes is a very good found footage Bigfoot horror movie. Highly recommend." Oh, that sounds like a good one. I don't think I've seen that one. But it says, "Hey, hello, Brian and the Chiller Night crew. God bless yous all, and I miss all yins. Glad yins are here." Oh, thank you, Bonehead. Thanks for joining us. Dominic says, "Hey, everyone. Does that include the Bionic Woman episodes with Andre the Giant?" I don't know if there was any killing in there. I don't know, but that doesn't dismiss it from being just really cool. I wasn't even thinking about that one. That's pretty neat. John says, it's Tuesday night, and once again, it's time for Chiller Night Live for April. This is your unofficial announcer, Crozak the Grand, and now here's your host, Bryan Hogue. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. John, you shared something with me today. Is it about this being Godzilla's birthday? I would have worn my Godzilla t-shirt, but I wore that last week, I think, if I remember right. So, John says, first great Bigfoot movie is called Exists. So good. Got that on the list. Abominable. All right, we got that one too. We got a bunch of them here. I like to have a list just in case, you know, we keep things going here. Patty says, what about the $6 Million Man episodes with Sasquatch? I know, those were great. Ava says, hello all. Hey, baby. Thanks for joining us. SBC says, hello, everyone. Hey, SBC, thanks for joining us. Stephanie says, Abominable and the Legend of Boggy Creek. But boom, that's on there as well. I'll go down my top 10. Of course, by the time I get to the list, you guys will already have picked all of these. Steven says, now it's looking proper. What's that? The background, the cameras? I switched back to the regular camera. So if that's what you're talking about, I know last week it was the 50 Shades of Grey, Brian. So but now I think I'm back to normal color. Bonin says, hello, Miss Ava, Al, and my overseas buddy SB Cinema. John says, the Abominable Snowman of the Himalayas. The movie stars Peter Cushing and Forrest Tucker. Yeah, I'm surprised on the list that I got, it didn't have any more of those. Actually, the list that I have is kind of more of a modern, except for the Legend of Boggy Creek. And it didn't have any of the good old stuff here. You know, the old Hammer stuff. And but it says, yep, I hit the like button. Thank God it didn't hit me back. Yeah, you gotta be careful. That's right. Everybody, like, subscribe, hit the notifications. And I will be requesting that you do that a little bit later on, the end of May, very beginning of June, for my the companion YouTube channel that I will be launching here pretty soon. So just a little over a month, we'll be having that up and running, and there will be more content, different content on that one. Although I think that this show will also be on that channel as well, if I can get both of them to go on YouTube. So we got some stuff coming. I'll tell you what, I've been busy. Me and Jack Shadow, we've been very, very busy, I'll tell you. But it says, I remember a movie called Teenagers Fight Bigfoot or something like that. It was from the 1960s. Okay, cool. SBC says, The Curse of Bigfoot, 1975. Patty says, Terror Train. John says, how about Willow Creek and the Legend of Boggy Creek? Well, we got Willow Creek and we have the Legend of Boggy Creek. So, yes. Bowden says, well, after last week, you look like you got a tan this week, Brian. Okay, I'll quit picking on you and shut up. Joel said, Boggy, I read it that way. I knew what you meant. I had your back. I had you covered. John says, today is the first appearance. Okay. The first appearance of the U.S. release of Godzilla, King of the Monsters, starring Raymond Burr. And also today is Anne Margaret's birthday. She started in Magic and Tommy. Ava's been watching, speaking of Raymond Burr, she's just started watching Perry Mason, and she's very much enjoying it. So, kind of cool watching the old programs. Kind kind of partial to those myself. Although Perry Mason, I'm very well aware of the show, but I never watched it. I never watched it. So that's cool that she's watching that. The list that I'm going to go by, this is just a random AI based on experts lists, viewers rankings, and horror reviews. Here are 10 of the best killer Bigfoot movies. These are the 10 that, I mean, obviously there's a vast difference of opinions on a lot of these, but Savage, 2011, a direct-to-video feature focused on a hiker's survival against a ravenous beast. I've not seen this one. I'll go down through 5 of them real quick. Night of the Demon, 1980. Almost thought it was said Night of the Demons back in the 80s. Remember that one? A notoriously violent British-American film about an academic expedition finding a bloody rampage in the forest. I've not seen that one. I'm gonna say I'm not quite up on my Bigfoot movies. Creature from Black Lake, 1976. I'd never even heard of this one. A classic, they say. Huh. So they say. A classic 70s drive-in movie featuring college students investigating a local creature in Louisiana. Wait a minute. No, we didn't see that. Abe and I watched one about a Bigfoot movie back, and it was back in the very early 70s. It wasn't Legend of Boggy Creek. I do remember seeing that one, but another one is Big Legend. This one is from 2018. An ex-soldier searches for his missing fiancée in the Pacific Northwest, dealing with a very menacing creature. Okay, now I will do one more and then we'll jump back at the chats here. This was mentioned, of course, The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot, 2018. I've not seen this one. I should have. I was going to watch it a few times. Never got around to it. A genre-bending film starring Sam Elliott, offering a more dramatic, creature-focused take on the legend. All right. There you go. John says, how about Big Legend and Primal Rage Bigfoot movies? Big Legend, we did that one, and then Primal Rage is on this list as well. Yeah. There are more Bigfoot movies than I would have guessed. SBC says, I did not watch it, but there is a movie in existence called Bigfoot Exorcist. LOL, sounds insane. Oh my gosh, is that right? A Bigfoot Exorcist movie. Because they didn't make one of them yet. Well, Dominic says, yeah, Bones, Brian is in Technicolor this week. Bones says, does anyone know the Bigfoot movie where he's a serial killer? Or the one where Bigfoot gets some kids and goes on an adventure, or Harry and the Hendersons? Do they count? I did see Harry and the Hendersons for some reason on Killer Bigfoot Movies list, but it's a Bigfoot movie, I mean, I'll give you that. SBC says, The Abominable Snowman, 1957. Yeah, I thought some of those older ones would have been on this list. Pretty well-known movies. SBC says, sounds interesting. Bennett says, hello, Dominic. Hope you're doing good. Al says, there's a movie called Little Bigfoot. Little Bigfoot, oh yeah? Tom says, hiya, Brian and fellow horror movie freaks. Hey, you, Tom. Thanks for joining us. Tonight, we are talking about killer Bigfoot horror movies. That's our topic. That was Al's pick for tonight. And we're what? Not even, well, I guess we're 16 minutes into the show, and we've had just an onslaught of various titles. Stephanie says Bigfoot Exorcist. Yeah, that's what SPC said. Patty says Battle of the Gargantuans, Japanese kaiju. I remember that one. But it says, hello, Tom. If I call you Tommy, please don't be offended. It's easier to remember for me. Sorry. John says, I met Sam Elliott on the set of Mel Gibson's Army movie. We were soldiers. I played an American Army soldier for 1 month in Fort Hunter, Leggett, California. I am in the movie. No way! Oh, that's cool. John's got some neat stories. Worked for George Lucas and met a lot of, just got to see a lot of people, and of course he's meeting famous people here, and got to be a soldier for We Were Soldiers. That's pretty cool. That's really neat. SBC says, I did just find out they even made an Italian movie from, I think, the 1970s. Oh, wait a minute. This bumped up. I started on one comment and finished with the other. SBC says, I did just find out they even made an adult Bigfoot movie, LOL. Oh, jeez. Oh, my gosh. Tom says, how's about the movie Yeti? An Italian movie from, I think, the 1970s. That certainly qualifies for our list. Anything Bigfoot, Abominable Snowman, Skunk Ape, or whatever they decide to call it, we know it. It's all a type of Sasquatch. Bones says, Pat Savan, I love War of the Gargantuans. I can't spell it, but I liked it. Ravencroft says, hey guys. Hey Ravenscroft, thanks for joining us. John says, Half Human is a Japanese take on the legendary being. Directed by, see, these are really bumping up quick, Ishiro Honda, the director of Godzilla. In Japan, it was known as the Beastman Snowman. This film was recut for the US and was released under the title Half Human, with John Carradine as a scientist investigating the origin and legends of the creature. That's pretty neat. Very interesting information there. Anyone mentioned Snow Beast? Yes. Yeah, it has been mentioned. Snow Beast. We did that one on ChillerNight Theater one time. We played that one. John says, worked alongside Mel Gibson too. I have the pictures. Oh, wow. That'd be neat. I'd like to get together with you sometime, if, just to sit and chat about this stuff. That's really cool. I'm a big, huge Star Wars fan. You know, among all some of these other things you're mentioning, of course. But I just love this stuff. Be cool. Tom says, War of the Gargantuans with Russ Tamblyn. Yes. SBC says, they also made an Amityville Bigfoot movie. Oh no, it really... The Snow Creature, Al says. Ravencroft says, SBC, those Amityville movies are horrible, LOL. John says, how about Hammer Films, Abominable Snowman? Yep, that was mentioned. Yeah. Yeah, again, I thought that those would be like nowhere on like a modern list. For some reason, did I see any of those? And those were the first ones that came to mind. Dominic says, sorry and totally off topic, but speaking of Star Wars stuff, Brian, will you be seeing the Mandalorian movie in the theater, or will you wait till streaming? It sounds like it might bomb. I don't know. That's a good question, Dominic. In fact, Patty just sent me a picture of the display in Walmart of the Mandalorian Grogu getting all set for the release of the movie, and I mentioned to her, like, I wasn't sure. I'm definitely going to see it. I'm not sure. I'm I'm not much for going to the movies as much as I used to. So I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. I'm kind of back and forth with it. You know, it'd be neat to see it on the big screen. I don't know. What about you? Are you going to see it in the theater, or? I really don't know much about it. I know that the kind of the big CGI Jabba's son looks kind of weird. You know, big muscular hut. I guess there's no reason they can't be. It'd be like a human. Why not? Sure. Let's go with that. Brian says, hello, everyone. Hey, Brian, thanks for joining us. John says, let's get together soon. Sounds good. I think that'd be cool. Bonet says, did anyone watch that Amityville Thanksgiving movie? Oh, man, that was bad. I thought there was a wisecracking turkey in it, like Thanksgiving. Nope. No, I didn't see that. SBC says, they made a Bigfoot movie called Curse of the Reefer Beast. Oh, yeah? You know, there's creative expression, and then there's just some people with too much time on their hands. Stephanie says, I just want to say that the only non-killer Bigfoot movie I could think of is Harry and the Hendersons. Dominic says, hey, Bones, I hope you're doing well. Bones says, wasn't there a Boggy Creek 2? I swear I watched that. Yeah, that sounds familiar. Speaking of that, we were at number 5 here on this list, and I mentioned this. I mentioned, I think, every one of these, but I'll go down this list. Willow Creek, 2013. I've not seen this one. Directed by Bobcat Goldthwait. Well, that's a name of a blast from the past. This slow burn found footage film focuses on a couple visiting the site of the Patterson Gimlin film. I have not seen that. Now this next one, I think we've all seen this. The Legend of Boggy Creek, 1972, a docudrama style film that solidified the folklore of the folk monster in Arkansas. Or Falk. Yes. That's another one that kind of immediately comes to mind. Legend of Boggy Creek. An Abominable. And this is from 2006. A rear window style horror film where a paraplegic man in a remote cabin tries to convince others of a killer Bigfoot's presence. Wish him well on that endeavor. I hope he did well, warning everybody. So, didn't want to listen to him. Primal Rage, 2018, a visceral high-action horror film featuring a very aggressive and intelligent Bigfoot known as Oma, focusing on survival in the Pacific Northwest. All right, and number 1, at least for this list here, and this was mentioned already, this is Exists from 2014, directed by Eduardo Sanchez for the Blair Witch Project. This found footage film follows friends in a Texas cabin terrorized by a violent Sasquatch. I hate the violent ones. But anyways, that's our list. That's the list. Pretty neat. Put that topic picture up. Ravencroft said they did a return to Boggy Creek. Ah, okay. John says, go to the theaters to see the new Star Wars movie, Grogu. Keep the theaters, for Christ's sake. Come on, people. Let's help save Hollywood. You guys still go to the theaters? Do many of you still go to the theaters? I'd like to know. I haven't been to the theaters in a couple of years myself. Dominic, or SBC says, Dominic, Chewbacca is a Bigfoot, at least kind of. You know, it's funny you would mention that, because I remember the very first time this is before Star Wars came out, before I'd even seen a trailer to Star Wars, or maybe I had seen the trailer, but I saw a picture of Chewbacca on the cover of a magazine. And this is, I was a kid, I didn't know what Star Wars was. I just saw this picture of Chewbacca, and I thought that was Bigfoot. I thought it was a movie about Bigfoot. So, funny that you would mention that and conjure up that memory many, many years ago. Let's see. Patty says, I paid $10 a month to Movie Pass and to get to see 2 movies a month for free. Wow! That's pretty cheap. That's a good deal. Well, there you go. Look into that. Maybe if you're interested to start going to the movies again, or maybe you've never stopped, check out Movie Pass. That's kind of cool. Let's see. Skipping over a couple of these because I'm really far behind. Brad says, you know what's awesome? What? When the 1931 horror films Dracula and Frankenstein come into the public domain this January. It is. I was looking for the segue into that. You know, like you normally there's a... We had a great picnic today. It was awesome, but not as awesome as... But yes, that is the... those are coming to the public domain very soon. SBC says, Stephanie, there's a few movies where Bigfoot isn't evil. I saw one just a month ago, but I can't remember the title. Buck says The Yeti from 2006 also. Oh, thanks for joining us, Buck. Buck Williams, PA. The Yeti from 2006. I've not seen that one. Dominic says, no, I won't be seeing any Star Wars or Disney Star Wars movies in the theater. I've walked out of too many already. I still have to try to watch The Mandalorian season. Saw the ending of season 2. Looked cool though. The season 2 was... I love the first 2 seasons of that, especially the end of season 2 was really very awesome. Big, Boba Fett fan, so that was really cool for me to see that. Season 3, I thought they did, just my own personal opinion. I love Star Wars. I very much enjoy that series, but season 3, it just wasn't, it didn't do it for me, but maybe the movie will. Maybe it'll be better. I thought Disney, when Disney started out, I went and saw Rogue One. To me was fantastic. I love that movie. Rogue One I thought was fantastic. Very much enjoyed that. And then I'm enjoying very much the Andor series. And that has that same feel of Rogue One. And I love that. I wouldn't want all of Star Wars to be that way, but I love that there are some stories that are told in that way. Because to me, it just feels like an old World War II movie that happens to take place in the Star Wars universe with the old spies and the rebellion against the bad guys, the Nazis, the Empire. It's so cool. I even as a kid thought, that'd be neat to see something like that. Lo and behold, we got it. So, I don't dismiss it just because it's Disney. Although, I can't stand The Last Jedi. I can't stand it, and that's actually why I stopped going to the theater. I stopped going to the movies because of that stupid movie. But I can't write it all off. But that ruined it for me. But it says, I'm glad the ChillerNight crew can name the movies I watched and can't remember thinkings. It also helps me believe I'm not imagining them. The movies are thinking it was a dream. Patty says, of late, I haven't gone to see movies, but only to buy a large popcorn, extra butter to go. That sounds good. Now see, that's kind of putting me in the mood, to got to get your popcorn and your drink and go and watch, the whole experience, the movie experience. That does kind of sound fun. Ravencroft says, does anybody remember that TV special called Monsters, Myth and Mysteries with Peter Graves narrating? I remember that. I didn't specifically remember Peter Graves as the narrator, but that makes sense. Bigfoot was in that, and all the kids my age just went nuts over it. My story was, or my show when I was a kid was In Search Of, with Leonard Nimoy as the host. That to me was it. That's when I fell in love with all this stuff. John says, how about the movie The Valley of the Sasquatch? Oh, I've not heard of that one. SBC says, Manos versus Bigfoot. Manos versus... Where is Paul tonight? Dominic says, yes, SBC, totally. Some fans thought Chewie was a big dog or Bigfoot, LOL. Yeah, that was me. I literally thought it was supposed to be about a Bigfoot creature. Let's see. I watched that one in the One Rod. Serling hosted Night of the Bigfoot, 1980. Let's see. Stephanie says, hi Brad, today I watched Bride of Frankenstein, Curse of Frankenstein, and Frankenstein 1970. Wow, you watched you had quite a Frankenstein Tuesday. You know it's not so awesome, Star Wars Episode 6, The Last Jedi, Brad says. I mean Episode 8. Patty says, there's a documentary called Killing Bigfoot, about a group of hunters who believe only when they kill one bring back its carcass for examination will anyone believe it. Yeah, sadly some people probably think that. It'd be kind of cool to, at least contain one that's live, not necessarily capture it long term, but contain it a little bit, study it, maybe get along with it. Some of that beef jerky that they're supposed to like in the commercials. Ravencroft says, I checked out after Force Awakens. What a horrible way to treat legacy characters. Yeah. they were in a rush to get rid of the legacy stuff, the legacy characters. It's like, I could sit and do an entire show on that, and in fact I have. I've done some chiller chats on it though, but how do you mess up? How are you given this golden opportunity, this fail-safe franchise? You can't fail with this. But Kathleen Kennedy says, hold my beer. Wow. Dominic says, yes, Rogue One was the best Disney Star Wars movie I've seen by far, in my opinion. But it says, I give you intro, Brad. Knock it out of the park now. Yeah. Bigfoot versus D.B. Cooper 2014. SBC says, I have not heard of so many of these. But it says, sorry, Brad, I didn't realize you already made your announcement. I really thought I could set you up for the announcement. I goofed it up, sorry. John says, the Shaw brothers from Hong Kong released a movie about a giant Bigfoot creature. The movie was released as The Mighty Peking Man, and then they re-released it under the name the Goliathon. Ah, cool. Ravencroft says, yeah, In Search Of was awesome. Yeah, it was. John says, laugh it up, Fuzzball, on the show. Yeah, and The Empire Strikes Back. And there's another one, Solo. I thought that was a fun movie. I didn't see it though. I didn't see it, and it wasn't to try to hurt the people who were making that film. It was just like it was at that point. There were so many people turned off the Star Wars, like old fans like myself that first saw it when it first came out, and then to see which way they were taking this whole franchise. We're like, no, you can't just wrap up a pile of, and with Star Wars wrapping paper. Here you go. Here you go. Oh, you don't like it? Well, there's something wrong with you, not with us. But it's, yeah. Brad says, how's the Chiller store in the ChillerNight Theater tapings, Brian? The Chiller store is basically, like, I've not been putting much attention to that just because I have been so incredibly busy with the Chiller shows, with the Jack Shadow projects, and like I'm working on two different shows at once. And so, but those are coming along. Those are coming along. It's just that so much work that it's really keeping me busy. So I haven't been focusing, or I haven't really been focusing on the store. Besides, I mean, it's no secret the mall is, it's for me to go sit in an empty mall. Is not really the best utilization of my time, especially when I've got all this other stuff I'm trying to do. The escape rooms are still available by booking, but I with there's only a couple stores left out there, and it's unfortunate. And it's not the I want to make it clear, it's not the local management, it's not the local employees. Those guys and gals are fantastic. But when you get these people who are out of state, you get somebody from California, who owns a mall in Pennsylvania. They don't. So unfortunately, and I wish there was something that could be done about that, because when people from other states start buying up real estate and properties and homes, whether it be commercial or residential, you really got to watch out for that type of thing. Are they really going to upkeep everything? Are they going to keep it at its best? Are they going to do what's best for the community and keep the thing up and running? Well, sadly, we have our answer. But I'm very, very, very just swamped trying to keep up with the projects I'm working on. But it says, I don't want no Bigfoot around here. I'm just a little skull, and if he steps on me, there goes my neighborhood. Bigfoot versus zombie, Stephanie says. Rest in peace, Star Wars. Yeah, they could try to relaunch it in a different, but, yeah, they took everything great about it and, threw it away. They just threw it away. But it says, unless the neighbor's dog buried me, geesh, what an alternative. It's hard to be a skull nowadays. Al says, I saw a weird CGI movie called Bigfoot versus Krampus last year. No, really? Bigfoot versus Zombies, SBC says, yeah. John says, Kathleen Kennedy was Spielberg's right-hand man, or woman, if you will. I know. I've known that for a long, long time, but it didn't make it. Didn't amount to a hill of beans once she took over Star Wars. She did a horrible job with that. She ran that right into the ground. How do you take the golden goose? You could run with that for decades and just never ever fail. And that took a lot of talent, and not in a good way. I don't know about the word talent, but it took a lot of skill or unskill to take an entire franchise, a beloved franchise, and just totally sink it. Well, look what Paramount's doing with Star Trek. Starfleet Academy. Same thing. You can take a franchise that has no business failing and should never fail. You have the fan base. The fan base is strong, and there should never ever be instances of that occurring. You can have a bad movie here and there. That's going to happen. But when you have one that just totally wrecks the entire franchise, that is unforgivable. It really is. Buck says AI has said that the Bigfoot in the Magruder films or film was not a man in a suit, but biological. Is that right? Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. I haven't. I've seen some of that stuff that looks pretty convincing, but it's hard, especially nowadays. You have no idea. Everything is so convincing now with AI. You can do anything. Then it says, well, then a lot of the stuff's before AI, though. But it says, they may come out with Godzilla versus Bigfoot movie one of these days. He already fought the Wolfman. Who did? Bigfoot? Bigfoot, did he? Brad says, yeah, they really dropped the ball with Star Wars Last Jedi, didn't they, Brad? That they did. SBC says, man versus Bigfoot. Is that a movie? Or is it... Patty says, I still intend to buy your ChillerNight shirt. Oh, that's cool. ChillerNight will still continue. Like like everything is being done now still under the blanket of ChillerNight. I have the ChillerNight Theater coming out, those episodes. I have this other new show with featuring Jack Shadow coming out as well. So we will see. The only thing is, I'm going to be taking this stuff and take it to a channel that I can monetize and feel good about that, and not feel like I know that there was maybe a loophole that you were suggesting, SBC, the one time, but even if they did that, that could still, the plug was pulled once, and that's what bothers me. It could be pulled again for that very same reason, and I don't even want to take that chance because I'm putting too much work into this stuff. So I'm just going to open up a companion channel, and we'll see how that goes. And when it gets a little closer, I'll tell everybody, hey, jump on over here too. So hopefully you do, and hopefully you enjoy the stuff I'm making. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. John says, they thought Kathleen would be a perfect fit for Lucasfilm, the art director. Doug Chan is finally in a position of power at Lucasfilm. I've seen the Phantom Menace characters Marquette at Lucasfilm art department before anyone else on planet Earth. Ah, that's cool. I had mentioned Alex Yeager, who I went to the Art Institute of Pittsburgh with, only because you said you didn't know him, but he went to work for ILM, and he was such a good artist, and I see his name. The movie was done with through ILM. I've always sat and watched his name, and he was on there. We graduated in '95, so I think he would have worked on those movies at that time because he got hired right away. In fact, one of my claim to fames that I can at least have a little bit of bragging rights is that a little slice of pride when it comes to this is that I remember being told they see this back in the early 90s. They see 3,000 resumes a week. The odds of you getting a phone call are not real good. But that was ILM was like the mecca of for an industrial designer. So, but I got that call. I got the call from ILM one time, and then they said that they liked the practical stuff that I was doing, the physical stuff with the stop motion and the masks, prosthetics, the model making. They said, but do you have anything with your computer renderings on it? And I said, oh, okay, I can send you something like that. And I knew at that time, because my stuff, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was no good at it. So I never got a follow-up. Hoping, praying, and rooting for you, Brian. Stephanie says, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Patty says, the land is more valuable than the building. At least you still have your online store. Oh, yeah, that'll never go away. I'll still have that. And I don't know about the haunted house this year. I guess I'll have to see. I don't want to say yay or nay just yet because I am so like I'm so bogged down with the other stuff that I'm doing that I really don't know. I don't know. Like I said, if I pushed it, if I really pushed it, I'm when I really push it, I can I do fairly well with the bookings, but for me to actually go sit in the store, I've did that for too long, and since after October, I'm just sitting in an empty mall. And I'm not saying this to critique the mall. It's not like this is a secret. This is everyone feels bad about it, but that's just the way it is. Bigfoot Wars 2014, SBC says, or Bonin says, if they make that Bigfoot versus Athlete's Foot movie, they'll have a weapon called the Tough Actin Tinactin. Tough Actin Tinactin. SBC says, Star Wars did die with Han Solo. Maquettes, John says. You said Marquettes, okay. Ravencross says, Sci-Fi Channel made a movie called simply Bigfoot with Danny Bonaducci and Barry Williams. It was kind of fun. Is that right? Okay, I did not know that. I didn't know about a lot of these Bigfoot movies. Patty says, Bigfoot versus Godzilla, would that end like Godzilla versus Bambi? I would think so. Yeah, I don't see that lasting too long. SBC says, I still can't believe they killed off Han Solo. But it says, yeah, let's see, I bet Godzilla would just squish him too. Capture Bigfoot 1979. Let me see how far behind. I'm not too far, but John says, I think the guy's last name now ruling Lucasfilm is Filoni in Chiang. I know Dave Filoni is running. I don't know if he's like the big boss. I don't know. I haven't really looked into it. I know Dave Filoni has a lot to do with it. I'm not familiar with the other guy's name, to be honest with you. But that's cool. Hope they do a good job. I really do, because man, you couldn't have done any worse. But maybe they can kind of draw in younger and newer viewers that can kind of they lost a lot of the old viewers, unfortunately, but maybe they can pick up a lot of the new ones, and get the franchise back in some kind of order. How do you do that? That's a special case of stupid right there. Ravencross says, Star Wars was never about the universe to me. It was about Han, Luke, and Leia. With them all ruined and dead, I have no further interest. I totally get that. They were saying they were too old, but it's like, okay, I don't see that. I mean, yeah, okay, some of them were getting old. Well, Mark Hamill wasn't that old. Even Alec Guinness. Ben Kenobi is supposed to be 57 years old in A New Hope in Star Wars. 57 years old. I think I'm pretty fit and in pretty good shape. I'm 57. At least for a couple more months. I don't think that I would be too old to be running around and doing this stuff. Like, give me a lightsaber, I'll show you, young whippersnappers. No, but I mean, they weren't too old for that. I don't think that they were too old. They could have still. I mean, and then I look at the, Count Dooku, played by Christopher Lee. He was very old in what was it? Revenge of the Sith. And man, he was like in Attack of the Clones. They really made his character very powerful, very very spry. ILM, yes, I delivered. John says I delivered packages to them every day. Kerner Street in San Rafael, California. I have been to George Lucas's house too, delivering his newly purchased artwork. Main house at Skywalker Ranch, he had a climate-controlled room for his artwork. Great times. Oh man, that is so cool. That is neat. Ah, that is so cool. Bonin says, I've caused so much chaos and confusion that I can't remember what I was commenting on. I guess whatever I had to say wasn't really important. That's nothing new. I really am irrelevant most days. I don't know what you were talking about, Bonehead. I can't help you. John says, I also sat at George Lucas's desk. Yeah, and you sent me some an email there with a bunch of pictures. I love seeing stuff like that. It is so neat, you know. I'm like such a big, huge fan of Star Wars, and to hear that stuff like that is just incredible. And then, like I said, in the you know, when I was going through the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, everybody just wanted to go to ILM. That was your dream. You know, it was why you got into that stuff. You know, a lot of us, most of us. I can't think of one person. There might have been, you know, one or two that went in there with the intent to go into car design or something like that. Which, okay, probably more than one or two. But most of the people that I knew, you know, went in it because of Star Wars and you know, ILMs, all this, you know, the special effects. Jurassic Park, that was big. That was a big thing at the time. Let's see. I'll skip over a few of the. Oh, okay. I got to skip over some of these just to kind of keep up. Dominic says, I got the feeling that Harrison Ford wasn't crazy about the Han Solo character after Empire Strikes Back. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but that's what made his career. Yeah, he wasn't. He's made that known, and he wanted George Lucas to kill him off. But I don't know. You know, I get. I'm okay with the main character dying if it's done in a right way. I didn't have as much of an issue with Han Solo. I didn't want to see the character die, you know. But my main issue and many others was what they did with Luke Skywalker and Han Solo. Yeah, it was. I can't say, oh, you can't kill any of the characters. I'm not saying that, but you know, to be kicked to the curb like they did with Luke, at least that was the unforgivable sin. Patty says, my comment disappeared. Paramount and Disney want money. They don't care about fans. Put a name on it and people will pay to watch what they believe. Yeah, that's certainly the message that everyone received loud and clear. I'm not saying that about, you know, a lot of people who work there and stuff are obviously big, huge fans of everything that came before. I'm you know, but you know, unfortunately, if you get the wrong people in charge, you know, it could just be a little group up here in the right position, but the wrong position. You get the wrong people in those positions. Unfortunately, that can make such mistakes and such colossal mistakes. It makes me sick. It really does. Star Wars. I love Star Trek too. Although I'm more very old school with Star Trek. So, but I sit back and just kind of have to laugh at the Starfleet Academy. You know, it's like they sat there like, well, let's see. They ruined Star Wars. Well, we can top that. You know, you know. Let's do what they did. You know. Yeah. And they got canceled real quick. John says, Lucas Valley Road, San Rafael, California, Lucasland, named after another last name, Lucas man, back in the day. That's so cool. Ravencroft says, Brian, I bet you read Starlog magazine. All the time. All the time. That and Famous Monsters of Filmland. Yeah, I love that stuff. I loved it. A lot of good memories sitting there reading those Button says, can't run, Miss Stephanie. Got no legs or a body for that matter. I'm hoping he won't notice me. Bigfoot versus the Illuminati. Is that real? Somebody actually, 2020 made a movie. I can't believe how horrible, crazy Bigfoot movies they've made. LOL. Yeah. Hey, I didn't realize we were this close to the end of the show. Now, don't forget, next week, horror movies based on books. Now, that was Stephanie's. Tonight's with the Bigfoot, that was Al's topic. And then we'll do horror movies based from books. That's Stephanie's for next week. On May 12th is silent horror movies. That was SBC's. And then after that, humans that turn into monsters. That's Brian Iver's topic. So those are coming up. I didn't want to go too far beyond that because I'll probably forget. John says a shout out to Edie's Entertainment Comic Shop in Pittsburgh. Oh yeah. What a great shop! Amazing old comics, nice staff. Yeah, I used to like the and the old models, the old model kits and stuff. Yeah, I used to work at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, so which was within walking distance. I guess everything downtown was in walking distance, really. Patty says it was the fact that they had his son kill him that bothered me. Yeah, that was just a weird decision. I wouldn't have, quite honestly, Harrison Ford, huge actor, obviously, the world knows him, but I wouldn't have let him control which way that character went. Like, not for that anyways. Again, I didn't want to see Han Solo die. I didn't have as big of a problem with that as I did with how dirty they did Luke Skywalker. They just rubbed his face right in the mud and humiliated him in front of everybody. I mean, you can't recover from that. Not from that point on. He was just, I can't look at him the same. He was shamed too much. They can go back and say, oh, he was, let's do a younger version of Luke, like in the Mandalorian Season 2. And maybe Luke will be in this new movie. They're just kind of keeping it under wraps. I don't know. That'd be kind of cool. But we still got this, we still saw him, degraded, and like I said, it's just like taking your hero and shoving his face in the mud, and it's like there's no walking that back. It's they put that on the screen for everybody, and they just made a fool out of him, and I hated to see that. They didn't need to do that. They shouldn't have done that. I mean, not that they didn't need to. They shouldn't have. Nobody's making Star Trek or Star Wars today was a real fan of the OG stuff. Maybe most probably never watched them. Ravencroft said. All right. I am really. John says Kennedy ruined things with her woke ass nonsense. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's what I'm saying. Is like, okay, Paramount saw that the woke stuff wasn't working, and I'm not saying this to get on anybody's, again, this isn't a political thing. It's not a political thing. It's an ideology thing. Okay, that's what the woke thing is. It's an ideology. If you're woke, hey, have the happiest life ever. Just don't make a Star Wars movie. You're gonna ruin it. Don't make Star Trek. You're gonna ruin it. I'm telling you. It happened. It happened, and that's exactly why. When you're shoving an ideology, a narrative like that in, that has nothing to do with either of those universes, see what happens. We saw it happen. So, yeah, you're right, John. 5 minutes left. Please hit that like button. Dominic says, on the way out. Good night, you fine people. Awesome. Thank you. Nice topic, guys. Ravencroft said, I'm missing some of your comments. I'm sorry about that. But a lot of you saying good night, and thank you. John says, we now come to the top of the hour, and you have been enjoying another great hour on ChillerNight Live with Bryan Hogue. This is Crozak the Grand reminding you to check out your library for more on horror stories that have used for horror movies. Until next time, stay chilled and keep thrilled. Yes, because that will be next week's topic. is horror movies based on books. Like this, that's right. Across from Pittsburgh Art Academy, maybe 2 blocks away or less. Sides. John says, Ides. Yeah, okay. I was like, I'm not familiar with that one. People that are woke need to go back to sleep on it, says Ravencroft says, yeah, you can be either party and not be into the woke stuff, believe me. And yes, that's true. There are, yes. It's not. There's a, Al says, good night, everyone. Thanks for joining us, Alan. Thanks for tonight's topic. Very cool. It was a fun one. John says, yes, Brian, right on. Stay cool, everyone. All right, John, thanks for joining us. Bunnet says, thanks again, Brian, and the ChillerNight crew for another great show. God bless you, and see you next week. Stay cool, be cool, John says. All right, well, thank you, everybody, for joining me and each other for another ChillerNight Live. Have a good night. Have a good ChillerNight. We'll see you next week.